No mai haere mai ki tēnei hui o te kaunihere o ngā roto o Rotorua. Welcome to this meeting of the Rotorua Lakes Council. It's a pleasure to have so many of our public joining us, and of course our Youth Council, which we're looking forward to having a presentation from them soon. Just a reminder that this meeting is being live streamed, so if everyone could please have their mobile phones turned off, and we will take a morning break at 11 a.m. But before we get underway, I'd just like to invite Councillor Kaifong to open us up with the karakia.
Morena koutou, ki unoi tātou, let us pray. Tūtaua mai I runga, tūtaua mai I raro, tūtaua mai I roto, tūtaua mai I waho. Kia tau ai te mauritu, te mauri ora, ki te katoa, humie, huie, tae ki.
Ngā mihi nui, Councillor Kaifong, thank you very much. I do call for apologies. We have an apology from Councillor Wang, who is sitting an exam at this moment, so we wish him all the best, and also Councillor Patterson and Kiriopa just for lateness. It's moved by Councillor Kaifong, seconded by Councillor Barker. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Are there any declarations of interest today? There appear to be none. Any urgent items not on the agenda? Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Last weekend, the Bay of Plenty steamers achieved something which hasn't been achieved for a very long time. In 1976, they won the inaugural NPC. Not even in 2004, when the steamers won the Ranfurly Shield, did the boys get through the semi-finals. This last week, they've got themselves into the finals. And this is a notable achievement, and I was wondering, Your Worship, whether you would consider sending a letter to the steamers and let them know that we in Rotorua, it's not a home game, but we'll be there with them in spirit on Saturday, and we'll be watching their feats against Wellington.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lee. I do have one in preparation at the moment. Like you, we are very excited that the Bay of Plenty Steamers will be playing in the final, so thank you very much for that suggestion, and we will pass on our best wishes from our council and our community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell. Thank you.
And apologies on why.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. We'll just note that and we'll get that underway. Any other urgent items? Or might Councillor O'Brien? Thank you,
Tamara Kurto, and good morning. Sorry, if no one else has an urgent item, I would like to bring up the minor matter, if I may, under 9.13 of our standing orders. Happy to wait for it if it's going to be approached later on, or if it is during our reports. I understand that there's a possibility of an application which we may or may not have already received regarding a corrections facility of some form in Waikiki. And I was just wondering if we could perhaps have, and I don't seek a resolution today, but perhaps a discussion on what the facility, the application is, if we've received it, and what the process will be moving forward on it.
Thank you. I'll just get our Acting Chief Executive to consider how to provide an update on that.
Thank you. I'm quite happy for it to be later on in the meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.
How about we do that? Thank you. And we'll take that as a minor matter. There appear to be no other urgent items, so we'll get on with our business today. First of all, we'll just confirm the minutes, and we will take, there's a number of them, but we'll take them all as one. The minutes of the Ordinary Council Confidential Meeting held 18th of September, the minutes of the Emergency Council Meeting held 18th of September, minutes of the Council Hearing held 18th of September, and also the minutes of the Ordinary Council Meeting held 25th of September. May I please have a mover and a seconder? That's moved by Councillor Waru, seconded by Councillor Kaifong. Just checking if there were any corrections to any of those minutes. There appear to be none, so we will take that as confirmed as a true and correct record. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. And we now go into our public forum. So we will be starting today with Jared Adams. We'd like to invite Jared down to the presentation table. And Jared today will be talking about Council's use of social media and also about public forums. So you know the drill. You've got 5 minutes. We'll have a timer over here and we'll hand over to you. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you so much. Today I'll probably more focus on social media. So good morning everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. I want to address the recent restrictions on public comments by the Rotorua Lakes Council across social media platforms. More importantly, I want to speak directly to you, the elected councillors, about your responsibility to put the voices of the people and Rotorua community above the preferences of council staff. You were all elected to represent the people of Rotorua, not council staff, not bureaucratic processes, but the community. The public trust you to act on their behalf, to listen to their concerns and to ensure that their voices shape the decisions that affect us all in Rotorua. Limiting public engagement on platforms like Facebook and YouTube undermines that trust. It suggests that the council is more concerned with controlling the narrative than fostering open dialogue with its community. While I understand the intent behind staff wanting to provide accurate information, relying exclusively on council communication is dangerous. No institution is infallible, and councils, including this one, have been wrong or incorrect many times in the past. By limiting public comments and feedback, the council creates an echo chamber where only its version of events is amplified. This undermines the opportunity for residents to challenge misinformation or provide alternative perspectives. It's in those moments of public disagreement that the council can truly learn and grow. Your role as councillors isn't just to follow staff recommendations, but to keep them accountable. Social media is one of the few ways that it provides an essential platform for residents to engage in this accountability process that's available 24 hours a day. Directing people to phone lines or emails for feedback forms puts an unnecessary wall between the community and their leaders. Open dialogue on social media may be challenging to manage, but it's far more dangerous to shut it down, as the council is actively doing. The answer isn't to silence discussion, but to engage with it. Public input, even when it's critical, helps reveal blind spots and ensures better decisions. Councillors, you have the responsibility to lead, not just administrate, and that means fostering an environment where the public's voices are welcome, even if they are inconvenient. I urge you to take a stand for the people who have elected you. Let's not shut out the community, but instead embrace their kōrero as the foundation of a stronger, more connected Rotorua. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jared. And next in our public forum, I'd like to invite Tracy Thornborough to come and talk to us regarding Freedom Camping. Thank you very much, Tracy.
Okay, thank you so much for letting me speak today. My name is Tracy Thornborough and I was born and bred in Rotorua along with generations before me. Rotorua. I love Rotorua. The gardens, etc. around town look amazing and the place is always looking cleaner. What I don't like is the lack of support Rotorua gives to local businesses. I manage a holiday park and also a ratepayer with my house in Hemarana. Rotorua was once #1 in New Zealand for tourism. This is now Queenstown. We are, however, one of 3 top places for crime. I just want to talk about the freedom campers around Rotorua. There are 9 commercial holiday parks around Rotorua and about 8 freedom camping spots within 25 minutes. These spots aren't not supporting local businesses as such, and these aren't just the homeless living there. They're not spending the money in town or small businesses or tourism. Collectively, holiday parks pay tens of thousands of fees to operate as a campground to council. When they put up the freedom camping spots up, it bypasses us altogether. When guests stay in a holiday park, they feel safe and we act as an eyesight by telling them all the amazing things they can do in our beautiful town. They then stay longer, spending more. This way we are helping each other. It's like a conveyor. We also do a 3rd night free, as a 1 night turns into a 3-4 nights. This gives them the extra money to spend to the tourism. More money to Rotorua. When they park, for an example, in Hemarana or other freedom camping spots, they're not going to drive into town and back again. We've seen them park there for a few days on and not move. The freedom camping spots are getting more and more campers each night due to word getting around in social media sites. There were 33 just in city 2 nights ago and 37 last night. That's just counting 3 spots around Rotorua. The council will stay certain times and no more than 2 nights, and there's only a few sites. The council is not moving them on as it is a call-out fee to Watchdog, and it has to go through parks and reserves who don't work after 5. Taupō is an example that got out of hand along the lake. There are less bins around for the town, but Freedom Camper spots have a range of bins and some even have toilets and showers and hot water. Who is paying for this? A few days ago, we had a couple from USA come in late to stay, saying all the Freedom Camping spots were full. They ended up staying with us for the night. When they came in the next day to leave, we showed them what to do around, and they ended up staying another 3 nights. A few months ago, another camper stayed down lakefront, only to have a hand come through his window to grab his wallet off the table. He then stayed with us, but this isn't a good look for Rotorua. If council want to make the rules, then they should abide by them. It is costing us ratepayers and regional rates as a percentage goes to parks and reserves so we can use them. And that is not a problem, but users should pay. They shouldn't come over and stay and travel free. The bylaws came into force 29th of August saying that they must be self-contained and certified with plumb toilets. 2 Eastern Bay of Plenty councils are clamping down on this, so should we. We are a destination and should be no Freedom Camping spots within a certain radius. There are some beautiful spots to Freedom Camp around New Zealand, but it shouldn't be in a tourism destination. Freedom campers are having an increasing negative effect on New Zealand's clean, green environment due to increasing volume of them, as said in the papers. Let's support all Rotorua businesses and get back to the top of tourism, not just in New Zealand but the world. We're sitting on a gold mine here, or should I say a volcano, so let's explode. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tracy. We have no public petitions or notices of motion today, so we'll go to our presentations, and it is our great pleasure to invite our Youth Council and our Youth Councillors to come and present to us regarding the mahi that they've been up to this year.
Morena everyone, my name is Luke Bishop, and on behalf of the Rotorua Youth Council, I want to thank you all for giving us this opportunity to speak with you today, and also for your support throughout the entire year. We've been working hard throughout 2024, and we're really excited to share this journey with you, our achievements, our wins, and some of our goals for the future. So the Youth Council was re-established for 2024 after quite an extended absence, after the Council identified a growing interest in youth engagement and leadership development. As young people, we really want to have a say in how decisions are made, and the Youth Council has been a mechanism for us to be able to do that. Okay. And so we've had 4 key projects over the course of the year that we've worked on. We spoke to you earlier in the year during the long-term plan submissions, which we were really excited to do and put together a strong submission for that. Our other projects that we've worked on have been around inner city revitalisation, climate change and the Council's environmental policy, and we've also put together a youth engagement strategy. And these 4 key projects have sort of guided our year, and we've loved to be able to work across these different areas, and they've shown us a real insight into council life. And as young people, all interested within the political world, it's been a really great experience to be able to do that. And so that was sort of our purpose for the year, to really get participate within civic life, to really gain a strong leadership opportunity, and the opportunity to represent our rangatahi from across the city. That's a pretty, I guess, cool thing to have in our, to have experienced, and we've loved every minute of it. And so I would like to hand you over to one of our other youth councillors, India, to speak a bit more.
My name is India, And one of the key things we've focused on this year is bringing youth perspectives to the table in a meaningful way. We meet monthly to discuss the issues that matter to young people in Rotorua, and we've taken steps to ensure our voices are part of the Council's decision-making process. Through our workshops, civic participation projects, and engagement with the wider youth community, including our participation in Festival for the Future, we've been able to develop leadership skills and learn about how local government works. It's been an eye-opening experience for all of us to see how much young people can contribute when given the platform and the right support to do so.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tulsi, and I'm excited to share some of our achievements this year. One of our biggest achievements has been developing the youth engagement strategy. We surveyed 182 young people in Rotorua to understand the issues that matter to them, and this strategy is designed to bring more youth into civic participation. It's not just a plan on paper, but it's a roadmap for how we ensure young voices continue to be heard in our community. We also made a submission to the long-term plan where we had the chance to directly contribute to the planning and budgeting to the city, which was pretty exciting. Another highlight was attending the Festival of the Future, where we got to network with young leaders from all over the country. It was inspiring and gave us so many ideas about how to bring positive change to Rotorua. It has been an absolute pleasure to be part of the Youth Council this year. Thank you.
My name's Finley, and looking ahead to 2025, we have a few recommendations for the Youth Council. Firstly, we recommend that you action our youth engagement strategy, which we've developed over the year. It is especially important because Rotorua, having such a high youth population, we've noticed through surveys that not a lot of the youth are already involved with council. And so by implementing this plan, we hope we can get more youth engaged with civic life. We also recommend having more meetings throughout the year. That way we'll be able to see each other more often and hopefully get more done in the same period of time. As well as that, we've really enjoyed our bonding activity of the Festival for the Future, and we'd love for maybe a couple more, maybe something earlier on. That way we can bond earlier on, and throughout the year we'll be able to work better together. Finally, we want to make sure that the Youth Council continues engaging with both the Council and the community. We'd love to get more involved with the community, whether that's through different groups or individuals that aren't already associated with the Council. So please keep the Youth Council going, and we can see it going so far. Now some of our other youth councillors would like to share some of their personal reflections for the year.
Hello, I'm Sophia. It's been a really grateful experience for me, and I think we've all bonded throughout this experience. We've been really bonded throughout different schools and various backgrounds, and it's given us the voice to speak back to you.
Hello, my name is Anusha, and it's been such an incredible opportunity to be part of the Youth Council. I have loved to see the Youth Council come together in the last few months, and I think we can all agree that it's developed our leadership skills.
Good morning, my name is Dagi. It's been an honour to represent the youth voices of Rotorua. I've learned so much coming into this experience, and I think we as a team have all taken so much out of it. It's been an amazing opportunity, and I would love for it to continue, because it really
Good morning, everyone. My name is Puhi. I agree with everything that's been said so far. Being in the Youth Council has given me the opportunity to show who I am, and especially by being surrounded by so many young people who share the similar interests and passions has been awesome throughout the year. Thank you, everyone.
Good everyone, my name is Dean Richardson. Being able to look at the workings of local government has been very eye-opening to me. I feel it's been very important voicing my peers' perspectives on the council front to make sure that they're heard for the future. I've had the opportunity to meet fantastic people, and for this I thank you very much.
I think, as you sort of heard, we're all incredibly grateful for the support that we've had from council, and we're really excited about what the future holds. As the first sort of re-established youth council, I guess there was a bit of pressure on us to make sure we put the building blocks in place for the next youth councils, and we really hope that this initiative continues well into the future. I think we all recognise how important, I guess, a youth council is, and to be able to share the perspectives of rangatei from across the city. And we've loved every minute of it this year. So thank you again for your time today and your support throughout the year. And we're happy to answer any and all questions that you may have for us. Thank you.
Ngā mihi kia koutou. Thank you very much, and congratulations on your year as Youth Councillors for Rotorua. It's been such a pleasure to see you all grow in your leadership journeys. I just wonder if there are any questions for our Youth Councillors. Councillor Maxwell.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Finley, you said you'd like to have more meetings in there. How often do you meet now?
Okay, so at the moment we just meet once a month. It was, I think, if I remember correctly, it was like the second Monday of every month, and it would just be a 2.5 hour meeting. So maybe adding in another one, 2 a month or whatever, and that way, it's not having to wait a whole month and then having that gap in between where I'm disconnected. And
thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Morning all. Thank you for coming and thank you for your presentation. I'm Councillor Grinch. I voted against the Youth Council back then, so it's interesting to hear what you've been up to. I was recently interviewed on the platform about the Youth Council at Hastings District Council, and they had actually been given voting rights on some committees. Any thoughts on that?
I believe that is something we have mentioned in our end-of-year report and strategy, is that going forward we would love that to be an opportunity for the Rotorua Lakes Youth Council as well.
Okay.
And I'd just like to add on to that. I think we've outlined that as a future aspiration for Youth Council, but that it is quite a tricky issue and a complex issue to give a Youth Council some form of voting rights. So, I think that's sort of a more wait and see. But obviously, as young people, would love to be as involved as possible within local government and local politics. So, I think future Youth Councils, I think that's something we'd quite enjoy, I think.
From my perspective, that wouldn't fit or align with democratic principles of democratically elected people making decisions, so there'll be a challenge for you to try and argue that point. Can I ask, in the report that we've received from council staff, they've described you as a diverse group of people. Politically speaking, my son is about your age, and he says most people your age lean left. Are there any councillors here who might be affiliated with the National Party, for example, or lean right?
Councillor Lee, it's really not appropriate and definitely outside of the scope and relevance of the Rotorua Youth Council, which is actually here for leaders regardless of political
Madam
views.
Chair, they said that they're interested in the political world.
Can I ask for a comment on that?
Yeah.
I think the goal of the Youth Council isn't necessarily always political, and what we're here to do is to represent, I guess, the interests of young people across Rotorua, and to try and build, I guess, a better city for them. So we're not really a political organisation. This is more just an opportunity to gain, I guess, political experience within the council. But we're not here really on a political agenda, just more to represent the young people of Rotorua.
Okay. I'll take that as a no. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Barker.
Great answer. I just wanted to ask you about some of the things that you were aiming to do in your first year. There's a nice diagram in the report that was given to us on page 17. It said that you were going to develop at least 3 educational materials about local government and Rotorua Lakes Council for youth. Did you manage to achieve some of these things that are in the first year, or would you like to just give us a bit more detail about those things? Or have I got the wrong end of the stick? It's for next year. Sorry. Is that right?
I think as we've outlined in our youth strategy, I think that was something we've got for next year's Youth Council. So not quite at the moment. Something hopefully that the next Youth Council will be able to do.
Great. Thank you. Was my misunderstanding.
Just to clarify, the strategy is starting next year being the first year.
Thank you. Awesome.
Can I just add something, sorry? So the Youth Engagement Strategy Group as a working group, what we've done is we've worked behind the scenes, collecting data, surveying, getting information out, talking to other youth about the youth engagement strategy, and we're hoping that all the background work that we've done and all the planning and everything that we've done can build this sort of platform to move on starting from next year. So that's sort of how we've initiated and planned it out, if that makes sense.
Nice one. Thank you. I understand. Thank you. Great.
Thank you, and we appreciate the work that's gone into that. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, thank you for your report and presentation. Just wondering, for your own personal growth, you no doubt watch our live streams in the evenings when you get home from school, because obviously these are happening while you're in school hours. Now you're here sitting in the room with us. You can see our faces, you can see our body language. You would probably find that very difficult on our live stream to get that kind of feeling. Do you think it would be more beneficial for you to actually be here in person when we have important topics to discuss?
Personally, I actually have watched a large amount of the meetings, the live streams, and I do agree. I think being here in person is a completely different atmosphere, and I think I've come away from the times that I have been present at these meetings with a much better understanding of what's actually happened rather than watching it on a live stream. So I do think it would be beneficial for that to happen.
Are there any obstacles to you doing that?
I suppose school.
Well, I guess you could say that this is part of your education.
Yes.
So if you're intending on this as a career path in the future, maybe there's some leeway that the school could say, actually, you know what, this is important for your future, by all means. Maybe 1 or 2 every few months, I don't know, but just something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. And there are, Councillor Waru.
Kei te ohu, rangatahi te nā kouta. Nice to hear the kōrero and the positive kōrero, because it's not always positive, some of the things we have to deal with. So it's really nice to hear the good feedback. And really interested in the rollout of the youth engagement strategy. It's going to be pretty cool. But besides the youth engagement strategy, what were some of the other burning topics? You mentioned you'd done some data collection, some surveys, some stuff in the background. What were some of the other things that came from that pertain to youth in Rotorua? Just couple of points.
Yep, so I guess throughout our meetings across the year, each of them had a really specific focus. So we've been working with sort of a number of council staff with each of those projects. So something like the inner city revitalisation, we had a whole session about what we would like to see in our city, and I guess how we can bring a youth focus to how we continue to develop and see how our city progresses over the next few years. So I think that was sort of each individual council session would have something where we could give our voice to, I guess, council decisions. But one of the, I guess, things like with the youth engagement strategy, we had a really high number of responses to the survey. But that was the thing, like throughout the year we had to go to our schools. We were consistently talking with our peers about, I guess, the issues that we were talking about in our youth council meetings. And within each of those sort of specific focuses of the monthly meetings we had, sort of it was our responsibility to make sure we were bringing through the voices of our peers as well. So the inner city revitalisation, whether it was our climate change session, sort of each individual meeting had its own focus, and we had to make sure we were bringing those voices to the feedback that we were giving to council.
Okay, I was going to simplify it for you and say, if there were 3 things for your group, 3 big things that you could have an influence over or, present on that are real burning issues for rangatahi, what would those 3 big things be?
I want to say that one of the things that's been stood out throughout the whole year is probably accessibility in a number of aspects, in the sense that a lot of youth don't feel they have access to the knowledge about council, but also in the sense I've done a lot of work in the disability community, and actually the access in that perspective is quite lacking in Rotorua. So taking sort of a broad perspective of the word accessibility and taking note of all of that.
That's one.
I think you've provided a lot of information in the youth strategy on a pathway forward and some key focus areas in there. So unless there are any other burning issues, we could leave that question there if you'd like.
Okay, Te Pai, thank you. I was just eager to, such wise words coming from such young people. So, e mihi atu ana kia koutou tira kia koe ewa, your nan and mum will be pretty buzzing over you at the moment. Me taku mihi hoki kia koutou e tipene ma, wahara mai ni te katautau i te kaupapa. Kia ora.
Well, there appear to be no further questions, so on behalf of the Rotorua Lakes Council, we want to thank you all for your contribution and the community service that you've provided. It's been fantastic that we've had the Youth Council re-established after the absence of one for 6 years, and I must say you guys have made us incredibly proud, and we look forward to the future pathway that you have helped to pave for the next set of leaders to come in with the Rotorua Youth Council. So we wish you all the best in your continued journey as young leaders, and we have no doubt that we will see you continuing to serve in other ways. Thank you very much.
Councillors are doing right.
No, thank you. Thank you. So we will move into our staff reports now. We are on page 29 of our agenda. May I please have a mover and a seconder that the report financial update be received? That's moved by Councillor Waru, seconded by Councillor O'Brien. All those in favour to receive this report, please say aye. Aye. That's carried, thank you. And we invite Thomas Colley and David Jensen to the table to overview and speak to a presentation.
Good morning, Your Worship and elected members. So this report covers the first financial quarter of 2024. I'll take the report largely as read, but feel free to ask questions through the report or of content in the presentation I've got here as well. So at the end of the first quarter, our revenue was 4.2 million behind budget, and that's largely driven by capital subsidies. You'll see that our actual CapEx is drifting behind our year-to-date budgets in the bottom left there. A number of those projects are funded externally, and as we're not quite at our year-to-date budget for that capital expenditure, we haven't hit the milestone for some of those capital revenues. So capital subsidies being 3.4 million behind budget, but we haven't spent the money in the first place on those capital projects, so cash flow is largely neutral there. We are also seeing that development contributions are slowing a little. We are 1.5 million behind our year-to-date budget for DCs, and we're tracking that, aware of other developments in train, but at the moment 1.5 behind the year-to-date budget. Our expenditure is largely on track overall, so $24,000 behind our year-to-date budget, 49.3 million. And that's across most categories. So most expenditure categories are on track at the end of the first quarter. Our net debt at 402 million is about $10 million lower than it was last month. We have struck rates and we are bringing money in. So our gross borrowings have not changed from last month, but we are holding a little more cash at the moment, just due to the timing of the rate strike and money coming in. And remembering, of course, that within the cash balance is a pre-funding for our 2024 maturity that we are holding on favourable terms with term deposit interest rates. And as we have presented in previous months, when you look at our overall P&L, it does show a overall deficit, and that's driven by the lower capital subsidies and the lower development contributions. We are showing, however, a small operating surplus. So in terms of the council's core business, we are operating in a surplus position. And just to illustrate it through the P&L, fees and charges are holding steady at the moment. We are. If you look below the headline number, Shimpak, of all of those events and venues, fees and charges are drifting below where they were below the year-to-date budget, and that is being offset by higher revenue in areas such as building and planning. DC's 1.5 million behind budget, capital revenues behind budget as well, and expenses largely on track. Look, I will take an opportunity here just to point out that we are at the end of the first financial quarter starting to form a view of where we're likely to be at the end of the year. There are some uncertainties with Infracore coming back in-house and events and venues moving out into Rotorua NZ, and we're firming up what that may mean for our year-end position, and we'll be reporting on that in the months to come as that becomes a little clearer. And in terms of our capital expenditure, we have spent 25.5 million for the first financial quarter against a budget year to date of 33.1 million. A lot of that is in sewerage and sewage, a lot of that in community wellbeing, especially with the museum well underway. And we'll be, I guess, tracking now that we are coming into more favourable weather, expecting the delivery to pick up a little and the capital expenditure to pick up a little, and we'll be tracking that over the next several months as we move through those favourable construction periods. Look, I am happy to take questions at this point on the report or the presentation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. Just a question based, looking at September, our net debt was 418 million. So now it's 402.3 million. So that's a 15.7 million drop. Correct. How did that come about?
That's net debt, so total gross debt less cash on hand. So the gross debt, our total borrowings have not changed since last month. What has changed is the amount of cash we hold. So as I mentioned earlier, we've struck our rates, and just the nature of how we collect that money, it comes in quite large chunks, and we're currently holding more cash than we were this time last month with that rate money coming in.
So it's not us paying back debt, it's just that more's coming in.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Waru.
Just wanted to ask around I think you mentioned, was it subsidies and grants? We're behind on it. Is that a timing issue? Or?
There always will be a time lag between the money. Quite often we have to spend the money first and we're reimbursed later. The fact that we are behind our year-to-date capital expenditure suggests that there may be a timing lag on when we do receive that money. Although we're not quite in a position to know yet whether that will occur before the end of the financial year or within the financial year.
Just so I'm clear, so that could be we haven't completed particular works yet. Could be the reason we are not eligible for the subsidies yet.
That's correct. So it's at the stages that we have not completed enough of the work to qualify for funding milestones, as opposed to the funding not being there at all.
Thank you. And my second question was just, you mentioned Infracore in-house. Now, I'm aware that there are particular assets that Infracore have, and what impact does that have on our sort of bottom end there, and also our insurance? And when can we expect to see that, if there is any?
Thank you, Councillor. You'll be aware within our long-term plan and our capital budgets that we've provided some additional funding to address some of the asset deficiencies or out in that area. We're a week and a half away from completing the actual transfer of Infracore back in-house, so 1 November, while the company will still exist, all 130 and 40 staff over there will be part of our family and referred to as, Rotorua Lakes Council going forward. We know we're picking up about $2 million worth of assets, and we know that there's a good portion of them that are not in the condition that we'd like them to be.
And part of the annual plan discussion that we'll have going forward is actually, we'll be talking about a little bit more investment needed into that space. So that won't affect the operating result at this stage, but it will put a little bit of pressure on our capital budgets to see if we can free some up to address some of those shortfalls. With regards to insurance, a lot of the services and those things that we have should already be covered under, or are covered under our policies, in particular our public liability, professional indemnity, and those sorts of aspects. And so we already have much wider coverage than Infracore, the company, has, and so that's easily absorbed into our existing policy covers.
Thank you. So we can expect to hear some more kōrero in the November meeting, ne?
I'd hope so. I think by the November meeting we should be able to give you an update with regards to how the transition has taken place.
Yeah. Sorry, that's what I was speaking to.
Yeah, and give you a little bit of, lifting the hood a little bit more and getting a better understanding of how things are going. I think overall, though, the pleasing thing is, and the feedback that I'm hearing from many of the staff, the gardeners and the water teams, and that they're actually really looking forward to coming back into council. So I think the culture there and the enthusiasm will be good.
Excellent, thank you.
I've just got a quick question regarding the utilities. I know it's a smaller area, but it is inclusive of power, water, gas, and last month it was 36,000 over budget, but this month it's 216,000 over budget, so quite a big jump, which is interesting given we're going into warmer months, so you think you'd need potentially less power. But of course it may be a sign that something's not quite going right. I know utilities bills are something that households and businesses keep. You kind of certainly notice when your electricity bill's a lot more expensive. Just wondering if there's a reason for that increase, and if that's a red flag, something's going wrong.
Yep. So there's two things there. One is we paid our own rates, so that's picked up an expense. And the reason why that's probably pushed it up is you'll be aware that the geothermal for the Energy Event Centre is still down, and there's a temporary unit there that's providing heating and hot water for the Energy Event Centre, and that's currently using about $40,000 to $50,000 worth of diesel to do that. So while that geothermal takes place, so there's a little bit of extra pressure in that budgetary area while that geothermal work and the new bore is, I think, pretty close to being put in place. So you've got to put the piping back across to the Energy Event Centre, and then that temporary arrangement will come off, but it is currently driving a little bit of extra cost into our organisation.
Just a tad. Thank you very much, and we look forward to that diesel no longer being used and going back to the sustainable energy of geothermal. Thank you very much. There appear to be no further questions. Thank you very much for the financial update, and we now will move to our Youth Council end of year report. We are on page 34, and I would like to invite Kellyanne to come and present. And first of all, I will ask for a mover and a seconder that the report Youth Council End of Year Report 2024 be received and the Youth Council Youth Engagement Strategy be received. That's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Patterson. All those in favour to receive, please say aye. Aye. That's carried, thank you. Over to you, Kellyanne.
Thank you for hearing our Youth Council this morning. These are 9 of the 10 Youth Councillors who have invested their time and effort into Council and strengthening Council's engagement with young people in Rotorua since January this year. It's my pleasure to present the end of year report and table it with a brief recap on the programme of some of the work that's been undertaken this year. I'd like to acknowledge the support of elected members, council staff, local businesses and community, and in particular the youth organisations throughout the year to shape and deliver the programme. So just to recap, Youth Council was re-established in response to growing interest in youth engagement and leadership development. Before relaunching, we spoke to young people, schools, youth agencies and community groups, and we researched the range of approaches to youth councils across the country. We were also informed by recommendations from the Local Government Review and the National Youth Strategy to inform the model. We distilled the objectives down to amplifying youth voices in council decision making and creating leadership and development opportunities.
Critically, this has been really about enabling a group of young people to understand what council does, how council does it, how council is governed by the democratic process, and how the organisation then gets on with it, gets on with the work. It's a bit hard to see, but a recap of the year. We had a plan. We began the process in November last year, so we've kind of been up and running for a year now. We received council endorsement and the recruitment phase was opened. We welcomed the first Youth Council with a pōhiri in January. Many of you were there. It was a stunning event and a stunning way to start. We then progressed through a program of work and learning over a series of 8 meetings in total. There were 4 key deliverables: long-term plan submission, inner-city revitalisation, climate change and the environmental strategy implementation, and the youth engagement strategy. We hope that the Youth Council would be representative of the diversity that we have in Arohe. This group of young leaders bring a range of diverse perspectives and lived experiences and have honed their skills this year to collaborate respectfully across diverse ideas and perspectives. Furthermore, these young leaders are passionate about Rotorua with great perspectives and ideas and are committed to making meaningful contributions to a better Rotorua for all. Some of the milestones and highlights, and this is from us as staff. The monthly meetings with a focus on civic participation, leadership and development. We had some wonderful discussions, great questions, great insights actually from our young people. Workshops about governance, local government, some of the key topics that we were engaging in, engagement with key stakeholders, projects. The strategy has been an outstanding kind of outcome. Long-term plan submission, the inner-city revitalisation, being involved with the youth as they're kind of engaging in these topics and exploring what the ideas are and exploring what it is that council does through these particular topics in these particular areas has been really interesting for us. Looking forward, so some of the feedback that we've taken on board that we will be implementing into our refinements for next year would be about, so we'll be expanding the program, continuing to develop leadership opportunities, ensuring diverse voices are heard in future council decision making, and Youth Council have established this vision of establishing the Youth Council as a cornerstone of youth civic engagement in Rotorua. Ka nui tēnā. Kia ora.
Ngā mihi nui, Kellyanne. Are there any questions? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, thank you, Kellyanne. If you could refresh my memory, is there a minimum term for a youth councillor?
Yes, it's 1 year. We have discussed that as we explored in the end of year review with the Youth Council some of the aspects of the program, both in terms of the topics explored, in terms of the development topics, as well as the format. And there was some discussion about whether or not Youth Council, it would be ideal for Youth Council to have a longer term. We know that other youth councils in the country, they do have longer terms. But the consensus at the end was that it is really good to be able to provide, while it would be, there are advantages to having more than 1 year terms, there was consensus that it's great to be able to provide the opportunity to more people by giving more people the opportunity to come through and have 1 year.
Okay, I could see that. I was just concerned that maybe we'd be losing talent, because they'd finished school, gone. We've only had 1 year at this, and then where do they go afterwards? University, etc. So we don't get the benefit of their experience for 2 years. But I can understand bringing in fresh blood is a good thing too. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, many of this group are going on to study outside of town, so they wouldn't be available, and that those perspectives we're feeding into it as well. It's not to say that we haven't been exploring other options as well in terms of potentially ex officio roles so that people can stay on. And yeah.
Thank you. I mean, would certainly welcome future opportunities for our youth councillors to decide how to stay connected, especially after the strong bonds that they've been able to make. So we've got a question from Councillor Barker and then Councillor Waru and Lee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Kellyanne, for your report. And looking forward, you mentioned developing leadership opportunities further. What would that look like? What sort of things would you be looking at to try?
Well, it's still in development, but there's definitely, we were able to give them tasters this year, and we gave them tasters. We have the graduate profile, so we gave them tasters around a range of different things there. I think it would ideally we would have we'd be able to go through some of those things that do some of those things a little bit more deeper. So exploring how we do that in quite a tight kind of time frame. Yeah, there's quite a lot to achieve.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Yeah.
So the leadership would be around those graduate profiles.
Thank you.
Just exploring those deeper.
Thank you.
Councillor Waru.
Tēnā koe te manukura. Tēnā koe. Ai te pehea.
Ka nui te ora.
Ka pai, ka pai. Yeah, before I move on to my question, excellent presentation at the start of the thing. You do some good mahi there, Kellyanne. Ka pai. Just wanted to ask, given that I saw that the program and it was really cool, and hui on particular kaupapa environmental engagement, aharane. Has there been any thought, given that this is largely these roles are largely governance roles, has there been any thought to work in conjunction with the Institute of Directors or something like that to perhaps provide an opportunity to ones like these to get some governance experience? Because I was lucky, I got to start very young and get to understand those things. So I don't know if those things have been explored. Even if they were going to study, there might be some other things to do.
Oh, those are definitely on the wish. That's definitely on the wish list of things that we would like to be able to provide and be able to offer support. We're slightly constrained by fiscal responsibilities at the moment, but definitely things that could be looked into.
Maybe something to have a chat to the Institute of Directors about. Kia ora.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your report, Kellyanne. And I've got to say, a part of me is a wee bit jealous of you and Felicity and the opportunity you've had to work with these young kids. I called myself Councillor Grinch before, but actually I've spent the best part of 2 years working with, 2 decades actually, working with young people through Rotary, setting up junior Rotary clubs, taking busloads of guys like this away for a long weekend to the Territorial Army and all sorts of really cool stuff. And I have no doubt that this has been a significant experience for them and that they've learnt a great deal from the experience, and I certainly wouldn't want to take any of that away. My colleagues will tell you that I'm a defender of democracy, and the idea that these guys would serve on a council committee causes me some concern. So I'd like to lay out for you what those concerns are, so that you can have your best opportunity for overcoming that hurdle, if you wish to advance that any further. Firstly, the local government minister was also interviewed on the platform, and he opposes that idea. I think the principal reason is it's contrary to the purpose of the Local Government Act, which is to enable democratic decision making. And for the benefit of the Youth Council, what that means is the community in Rotorua pay their rates, and they're required to pay their rates by law. But it comes with strings attached. Is there a
question here?
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Lee, I'm trying to give you some leniency, but if you could keep it relevant to the presentation that we've just heard, and we are in question time. But you are welcome to provide your feedback at a later stage.
Are we going to be having a discussion after this, or is it finishing with question time?
Just Just questions.
So the question will be...
motion or decision.
So the question will be, how do
provide
you...
voting rights for the youth councillors, so that has not currently been presented before us, but we appreciate you have individual concerns about that. The council does not have a view yet.
Can you tell me what the National Youth Plan is that was referred to in the report?
The National Youth Plan?
Yes.
The National Youth Plan.
It's page 35, halfway down.
I could send you the link.
A key focus was on representing the broad spectrum of youth, with applicants encouraged to share their unique qualities in line with the National Youth Plan.
The National Youth Plan outlines a number of priority cohorts within the wider youth community.
So who put the youth plan together?
The Ministry of Youth Development.
Ministry of Youth Development, okay. How old is it? Is this a new government presentation or an old government?
Oh, I can look that up for you if you like, and
that'd be great.
send that through. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll get a link sent. Cool. I think maybe we'll just note that as an action point, and we'll get a link sent to all councillors. There's been quite substantial work done by the Ministry of Youth Development on the benefits of not only making sure that these opportunities are inclusive, but also other things like how do we engage with our young people in a way that's empowering.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a question from Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've got an election coming up next year. I wonder whether, as part of next year's work program, we might engage with how we get youth to maybe stand and combat Grandpa Grinch and his thinking. But all jokes aside, young people don't vote or don't participate in democracy. Is that a fair statement? And could we do better in that space?
Yeah, we have asked for some data around youth participation. I think nationally we could say that the youth population. I haven't had that data locally yet, but I think there are some anecdotal evidence that engagement in that democratic process of young people isn't as high as other parts of our demographics. And in particular, and there's a national trend that way, from what I understand. Yeah.
Potentially a piece of work for the Youth Council?
Absolutely, yeah. So if you have had a chance to look through the strategy, some of the insights that came from the survey that they conducted with their peers was around young people believed that they wanted to know and wanted to be involved in what council does, but they didn't know what council does, and they didn't really know how to find out and how to learn. So some of the strategic initiatives that they've identified and set out in their youth engagement plan is really about addressing some of those issues, some of those concerns.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I think even in the youth strategy, it's quite telling. A question says, have you been involved with Rotorua Lakes Council before? And the vast majority, 160 people said no, only 22 people said yes, so there definitely is an opportunity to improve that outcome. And we'll take a question from Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Ian. Well, for me, first of all, I believe we in Rotorua have a very good Youth Council, strong, 2024. The question I got is on, I guess I'm looking ahead to the next recruitment campaign. Is it fixed at 11 or it can be expanded? I'm thinking of some of the kuras like Te Kura o Te Koutu, Uamata, involvement, I'm sure it'd be welcomed. Is that on the radar?
It's definitely on the radar, definitely something that we've identified as being, we haven't met our own expectations around attracting some of those rangatahi from our kura kaupapa. So we have some ideas about perhaps getting some of our Māori speaking councillors going in and inviting them to to apply. Just to kind of just kind of promote the opportunity. Definitely something that we've identified as a gap.
Maybe some of us can help somewhere along the line. No, well done. And just curious, somebody else mentioned about the talent in this district of Aotearoa. I'm sure some of the other members went to it, but only recently I went to Jersey Boys, Whetu Rangi here, and all the things that young people are involved in. Brilliant, very talented, and it reflects good on us. Kia ora. Thank you.
Thank you. There appear to be no further questions, so we thank you very much for your report, and thank you once again to our youth councillors. I also want to acknowledge Felicity, who was involved in helping to establish it, and I believe has returned now, and also to Troy Brown and Te Mauri Kingi for their assistance and contribution in helping our young people to develop their youth strategy. So we look forward to the future of Youth Council and recruiting very shortly. Thank you.
Sorry, Madam Chair. I just Ete Marukura. Just wondered, before the end of the year, will there be an opportunity for us to have a hui of some sort with our youth council as a mihi poroaki ne?
That's a really nice suggestion. Thank you. I'm sure we could arrange something. I do appreciate that they're about to go into exams, which we wish you all the best for, but we will find a time that's suitable for all of us.
Thank you. I think it's quite appropriate. Kia ora.
Thank you. So we'll move to our next agenda item. We've got the update on long-term plan other feedback. This is page 43. And we'll then go on to the adoption of modified Rotorua NZ statement of intent before finishing with Te Aroha Partnerships progress report before we go into confidential. Can I please have a mover and a seconder to receive the report update on long-term plan other feedback? That's moved by Councillor Waddu, seconded by Councillor O'Brien. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. And I'd now like to invite Greg to overview this report for us.
Good morning. Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning, councillors. This status update is just bringing back some of the other feedback from the long-term plan. So as part of the deliberations process back in June, there was a range of other feedback received that sat outside of the proposals for the long-term plan. And one of the resolutions that was brought forward on the 10th of June was to bring this back at a status update within 6 months. So really this is just providing some broad feedback on each of those topics that were brought forward. So happy to take any questions if appropriate.
Thank you. And as there are a number of different items, we'll just take questions on specific items, but again noting that there has been a status update on it, so there may not be too much more detail to provide. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. Thank you, Greg. Page 45. Kahukura says here, the club has shown continued interest in the development plans for the site, will allow room for a future club-based facility. No doubt that's talking about Titoki Place. So when do we get to see those plans? And other than Kahukura, who else is interested in that site?
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Sorry, I would have to get a bit more detail on that from the Open Spaces team as to when that will be brought forward or fit into the program.
Okay, thank you. My next question, all on the same thing. Page 47, Lakes FC presented in the previous annual plan and in the LTP, showing their aspirations for Praedinga Park, and confirmed that they do not wish to be part of the Titoki Place project. Is it possible for their aspirations to be included in the upcoming annual plan?
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. That would really be a discussion for you to bring forward to your elected members.
So, possible. Thank you. And last question, page 48, Rotorua Basketball Association. Could Titoki Place actually be a possible site for if Kahukura and Lakes FC decide that they don't want to be there?
Sorry, Councillor, once again, I don't have that information at hand. I'd have to get that sent back to you.
Okay, and sorry, there was one other. The Ohinemutu Development Plan. I'm sure we've talked about that before, and that there was actually one presented. So why are we still waiting on information from the community? I thought we already had that.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson again. So on that one specifically, yes, there was a plan drafted, and that has, from my understanding, been presented to the Ohinemutu community, but we are awaiting guidance from that community as to how that best fits in. So that has, I've had that conversation with our Marangi unit, and we'll see how we go from there based on the community feedback.
Thank you.
Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you to Manakura. Thank you, Greg, for the report. If I could just follow up on Councillor Patterson regarding Karakura and other clubs requesting, I presume, facilities not only to play but also club rooms. I'm rather struck that we're assisting in that way when we've got a facility such as the Rotorua Stadium sitting idle these days, essentially. Would we not be better off encouraging these clubs, even if they can't play, and I've got no problem with the Tatoki development, would we not be better off trying to encourage more utilisation of the stadium and the facilities there? I'm not sure how often WASPs use their club rooms, etc., but I just find, in a very tight, challenging financial and economic times, we've got the stadium sitting there. I think we should be trying to encourage these rather than building more club rooms or more assets which they'll come to us for shares, for contributions to. Let's look at the stadium and try and utilise that as much as possible.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The Tatoki proposal, of course, is for a playing field primarily. So again, that starts addressing some of the challenges around sufficient playing space that Rob Kethley from Sports Open Space team has presented to you previously. The comments around consolidating club rooms and spaces is something that has been discussed before, and I think it's worth continuing those conversations, so we can take that back through Rob to see if there is a conversation that's possible to try and utilise better some of the spaces that are underutilised currently.
Thank you, Dominica. And just a couple more points. Regarding community halls, there's states that there's going to be a workshop in November. Is that time frame still correct? Because, sorry, I've heard changing between November, December, early next year. Is November still correct, as stated here?
Thank you, Councillor. From my understanding, that is still correct. November.
Okay, thank you. And finally, can I just ask, it states under the Muria reticulated water supply, indicative dates 2036 to 2040. That date, sorry, I'm not quite sure where that's come from, because previously I had been told that it might be a chance of towards the end of this LTP where a design, and obviously the consent work, the current consents, obviously waiting for processing and, finding out where an appropriate water supply might be. So is that like a fixed time frame, or could it be earlier than that?
Thank you, Councillor. Those dates come from our infrastructure strategy, and our infrastructure strategy is a 30-year plan. That is reviewed every 3 years as part of our long-term plan. So really, that would be up to the team when they put that together as to how that aligns.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just looking at the compassionate communities where the council officers have met with the trust since they made their submission to our long-term plan, and that they are looking at improving the capacity for burials at the Kowe Urupa. I understand that there's limited capacity into the future for the Kowe Cemetery with regards to burials, and we're going to need to make some alternative plans at some stage. So is there any point in looking into natural burials at that particular site, or should we be looking elsewhere and doing our planning? That's just a question that may need to be answered by the team.
We might just ask Stavros to respond, but it's my understanding that they had suggested a location for it, and there was initial discussions with the staff on that. It's just whether or not enough money can be raised, and I understand in their submission they also mentioned that they will be utilising their networks and relationships to also seek philanthropic funding. But I'll just check if Stavros has any
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very briefly, like all the range of services we have, we're developing a strategic outlook for them. Cemeteries is one of them. A piece of work is undertaken at the moment to identify what our current capacity, including future natural barriers and so on, and that will inform the strategy for the next 3 to 10 years' time. So a report will come back to you as that strategy is completed, outlining the constraints and the possibilities in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Waru.
Tēnā anō koe te manukura, pātai tuatahi. The part in there, Greg, and thank you for the update around the Tūhorangi Tribal Authority request. Which two marae are they referring to in that request?
Sorry, Councillor, I'll come back to you with that information.
Okay, it's right. Hang on, still going here. The request for changes, I think it's the Homingi number 3 Ahuwhenua Trust, but it was also, I know it was supported also by the Mōrea community and all that. The future development plan or strategy focused on, in Rotorua, in this area here and not there. And you mentioned in this update that the Plan Change 9 created more enabling provisions for the development of papakainga. Would that still apply in that area, even though it's not zoned as such under the FDS?
Through you, Your Worship, Plan Change 9, you're right, was limited to intensification across the urban area. The one exception to that was the rules that were changed around papakainga, which actually extends beyond the urban area into the rural space as well. So the provisions are actually enabling in the rural space as well. The challenge, obviously, in rural areas is infrastructure.
Thank you, JP. Because the way I read it, I sort of needed a bit more advice around that. So thank you. I can assure them that no, papakainga is still on the cards. It's just infrastructure, which is actually one of the kaupapa that they brought up, but hey, we'll leave that one there. And my last
just
question.
to note as well, Councillor Waru, there was a change regarding papakainga in the past. It would only be papakainga if it was located around a marae, and that has now changed, which has been more enabling.
Yep, thank you very much. I did see that one too, so that's awesome. And my last question was actually around the water supply. I did mention Mōrea. So you've given us a bit of an update. Has there been any hui or anything like that with that community? Or is there any hui needed with that community to put a plan for that together? Or what's the steps moving forward? I think that might be a Stavros question.
Yeah, we'll ask Stavros if he has a response for now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the Mōrea is one of roughly about 2,000 properties are not supplied with a municipal water supply, as are outside our municipal water supply. We have recognized there is a need to consider extending a municipal water supply to those communities on the west Rotorua. We are now currently working with Ngāti Waiwehi to do two things. One is to renew the resource consent over Rewa Spring on Hamurana, but also on the lower Hamurama there is a lot of water that can be used to create a ring supply around Lake Rotorua, which will serve Mōrea and those areas. In our infrastructure strategy, those feasibility works are in the 2030s. However, the first step we're taking at the moment to explore the possibility of getting a consent to extract more water from the Hamurana stream. So that's all in our long-term infrastructure strategy. We're talking to individuals within the Mōrea community, but the message we give them is that we are aware of it, we plan for it. One thing that's uncertain at this point in time is that with the local water done well and the water regulator, it may require councils to bring forward any extension of water supplies into currently unreticulated areas. So we need to try to put in place the possible sources of water, which in our case is more likely to be in the Hamurana stream. But until we actually secure agreements for that, we'll leave it as it is in our infrastructure strategy in the 2030s.
Thank you, Stavros. That's actually makes me a bit quite confident then that's in the works. Also, and this is my last, just more of a request through you, Madam Chair. Can we please sort out our audio system ASAP? I feel like I'm struggling to hear everything, and I imagine it'll be the same. Maybe it's only in here. Online may be okay, but I'm struggling. So, kia ora.
Thank you. I'll ask Greg to provide an update.
Thank you, Councillor Warder, and apologies for the audio. We have engaged a consultant to come and do a broader piece of work on the audio within the chambers. That includes the upgrading of an amp that we have in the back over there that is aged, but also have a look at all of the speakers that we have around this this venue and ensure that they're all linked up and working. So we expect that to happen in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson, followed by Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your indulgence. Yes, just one quick question I forgot to ask before regarding the Rotorua Youth Centre. This problem with the internal gutter has been there for a while, and that tends to lead to structural damage if water keeps getting in. Are we going to address that? Because that probably would be a priority when it comes to just maintenance.
Through you, Madam Chair. Obviously, that is an important asset management issue, and my understanding is the property team is aware of it and are trying their best to ensure that leaks don't occur in that space, and will keep on top of that issue.
Thank you.
And I've just got a quick... Sorry, Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just following on from the question about the audio system, if you've got somebody coming in, I've had a number of people refer to the live stream going silent at times, so perhaps that could be something they look at as well.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. This is actually going to form part of a broader investigation that we're wanting to look at to ensure that we are obviously providing accessibility to the community on all ranges. Our initial focus is on the speakers though, and then we'll have a look at the broader project later on.
Thank you. And I just have a quick question regarding the SPCA submission for the snip and chip program. And I do note that the update from Council is that we currently do not have any legislative powers for the control of cats. This is something that has actually consistently been raised over quite some time. And I did see very recently that the Far North is proposing a bylaw that will require all cats aged over 4 months to be chipped and snipped. And this is a bylaw that comes under an animal bylaw, which is separate to what we have, which is a dog bylaw. So I just wonder if there is an opportunity to look into this as Council, because it will be consistent with the SPCA request, I think.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, so this has been on our radar since the Far North put that out for consultation, and we're very interested to see how that works and then fit this in as a part of investigation into our bylaw review program. Obviously, there's quite a lot of work that goes into the development of a bylaw and ensuring that all of our evidence is backed up and supported, and that the issue that the Far North are facing is similar to what we have, but our eyes are closely on what's going on in the Far North with regards to that bylaw, and we'll update you in due course.
Thank you very much. Councillor Maxwell, followed by Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you. On page 48, Ohinemutu Development Plan. Very pleased to read there. It says, Council is keen to work with the community of Ohinemutu. And I've heard from some of them now, what's developed down there is like a wetland. And they're working also with Bay of Plenty Regional Council, but I think that we're working with us for some of their future plans down there. Further up there to Rotorua Basketball Association, one of the fastest growing sports in New Zealand, we've been told so often. They're making good progress. There are options that they're looking at. T-Talk is one of them, but the preferred is in the government gardens. Kia ora.
Thank you. And finally, Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Te Manakura. Thank you for your leniency. Sorry, just some feedback regarding the cat. Sorry, I wouldn't be supporting that, a bylaw. I mean, sorry, how are you going to enforce that? Is this your cat? No. Oh, what are we going to do? Seize the cat? I mean, we've got enough problems with dogs. Sorry, there was, I believe, a number of dog attacks rurally on the weekend. I'd much rather we were focused on those sort of issues as opposed to a cat. But could I also remind that some years ago, and sorry, it's probably closer to 10, showing my age when I was back in my 20s, we managed to obtain some government funding that we awarded for desexing of cats. Sorry, I would have to look in where that funding came from, which government department, whether it was Internal Affairs or Conservation. Personally, I think that's much better for us, much better track for us to be going down, trying to obtain funding for a program with the SPCA for desexing and microchipping as opposed to bylaws and creating enforcement rules, which we're never going to be able to follow up on. So I just put that feedback out. So thank you.
Thank you, and I'm sure we'll all have a great discussion at the time when it comes back, because there certainly is an issue, and it's very important we control cats as they are predators to our native birds and species. Sorry, Councillor, do you have another question?
Yes, thank you for your indulgence. I forgot to ask when I was on before. I got caught up with the audio system. It was just around the Wahinimatu development plan. It says here, you know, to work with the community of Wahinimatu. So who exactly are we engaging with in Wahinimatu, and who's engaging?
It might be a question that we could take back and confirm with the Te Amorangi unit, who I'm sure would have been assisting in those discussions.
Thank you.
And I'm sure if Councillor Kiriopa was here, she would have been able to help with that answer. It's an issue she's very passionate about. So there appear to be no further questions, so we will move on. Thank you very much to staff for continuing that work from the other submissions. We move now to adoption of modified Rotorua NZ Statement of Intent. Can I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this report? That's moved by Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Waru. All those in favour to receive, please say aye. Aye. Thank you, and I'd like to invite JP to overview this report.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a very much an administrative step. As you're aware, there's been a number of changes of functions being shifted across to Rotorua NZ. They came back to us with an early draft of a modified SOI. As normally the step is to get your direction and pass it across. We'd truncated that in an effort to make sure their SOI was up to date as quickly as possible, so they provided a draft at the same time. That was received at the Community and District Development meeting, and there was no further comments to the draft that had been received. So at this point we're just doing the final step then of taking that draft and receiving it back as a final from them. So probably the misrepresentation is in the title where we say it's an adoption. It's not really an adoption, it's a receiving of the modified SOI.
Thank you. Open for questions now, Councillor Kaifong. And sorry, we'll take questions and discussion now, given this has been discussed in length previously.
Just confirmation that we're still waiting for some modified KPIs for some of the other work that's still been undertaken around the event strategy. So that was just signalling that I know that was a question that had been raised at the last meeting, but obviously hasn't been incorporated into this. So it was just but with that, I'd be happy to move since this is just an adoption.
Thank you. It's been moved. Over seconded by Councillor Waru. We're still open for questions or discussion at this stage. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that might have been me who raised those issues. I can't remember, but if it wasn't me, then I am going to do it now. Is there any chance that we get some detail about the major events funding strategy? There were some questions asked, for example, about Crankworks. So when do we get to see that kind of level of detail?
Through Your Worship, and it probably leads on from the Deputy Mayor's questions as well. So we've spoken to the Chair of the Board and also to the Chief Executive. Now, with the transfer of major events funding across to Rotorua NZ, their intention was that they would look to the strategy and seek to develop a new set of key metrics that would be used to evaluate the performance of all major events that have either contractually underway or certainly on an annual basis as applications come in. So the intention they had given me was that they would come back with a report that lays out those metrics that they would be likely using going forward with all major events.
Thank you.
Thank you. And there appear to be no further questions, so we do have that moved by Councillor Kaifong, seconded by Councillor Waru. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you. And now we have our Charoa Partnerships Progress Report. It's moved to receive by Councillor O'Brien and seconded by Councillor Waru. And we'll invite Paul Warbrick up to overview the report. We are on page 52 of our agenda.
Tēnā koe te whare. E te mana kura, tēnā koe, mihi kātika kia koutou ngā mātarai o te kaunihira nei. Well, I'll take the report as read. Greetings to you all. And I'll just mention a couple of highlights before taking any questions. So it's been a particularly busy last reporting period. Highlights are month 2 into the organisation. Particularly the stage 2 work that we're doing as an executive for the organisation has been really insightful, and there'll be a number of kaupapa or activities that will come forth to you in the near future. That has really allowed myself and the team to focus internally and work on who is Te Amorangi and what is our purpose and what do we want to achieve, and we'll bring those to you at the right time as part of stage 2. That's really important. What I can share with you is that the team is always busy. We sit in a largely reactive space, supporting and working with our business partners, the 18 work streams, and then interfacing outwards with iwi and hapu across the district. What we find ourselves is busy, but not having a clear direction of what we need to do, and we want to be able to bring this to the council for you to set the clear direction. And I note you've got one of your key outcomes of your LTP is ngā wabata o te mana whenua, or ngā tangata whenua. So what is that? So we'll get to that, but that's a really useful piece of work. So the last month we've been working hard, and we've still got work to do in that space. As far as external, you'll see in the report there was a huge success and lots of positive energy coming out of the visit from our whare taonga, our museum staff that took a whole bunch of really treasured items, historical treasured items out to Taurua Marae, out at Ngāti Pukeau. And I think in the last report we also mentioned that that is an ongoing activity that our staff will support as the many requests come in. And then the last piece that I'd like to just bring attention to was not only internally Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori, but actually the energy and the community feedback of our more external facing parts of our organisation, particularly the library, and the success they're having. And one notable one, and it was right off the back of Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori, was the Kupu Festival, which somehow doesn't appear in my algorithm, so I don't get to see it till the last minute, but I see that was a massive success that was recently held, and there was a number of notable Kiwi sportspersons and writers that joined, including some of our own staff that participated in these events. Sometimes we're heavily involved in them behind the scenes, but we're not bringing them to life. So we want to create a much more richer conversation about the things that our staff, your staff, not just the Māori staff are doing, but many of our staff in other work streams are doing, particularly with a Māori focus. So a couple of highlights there, but I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much, Paul. Question from Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Paula. You've now got 2 hats with your role and recently appointed with the civil defence side of things as well. I've probably mentioned this a number of times, and it was mentioned at our hui with Tātou Pōnamu recently here at Council, that the importance of marae being included into the civil defence strategy and your role with connecting with many of those marae. How do you see that's being perceived by those marae? Are they keen to work with us on a civil defence role, and do we need to help them with more resources to ensure that they can achieve that? Because many of them are volunteers, they're not professionals. Is there anything we can further help with?
Through you, Manukura. I haven't had the chance to, I guess, dip my toe into the civil defence space and emergency response, particularly in Rotorua Lakes Council. I am very aware, and I want to give the team the grace that they may have already undertaken this work. But what I have picked up on neighbouring councils and where I was previously was a focused role and focused resource to actually go out. A number of those out of the neighbouring councils are working to build emergency response plans with our marae, and the purpose is we all know during an emergency response our marae are conveniently located in some really useful geographic areas that sometimes, not always, tend to dodge some of our environmental catastrophes that we experience, and they do become a default location for emergency response, emergency housing, etc. That happens all the time, and that's not coincidence. That's because they are there for that reason, and we do lean on them. And it's not ideal to turn up at the 11th hour in an emergency and, hey, can we ask you to host? They're all voluntary organisations. They're not set up, but what we are seeing, and there was a really good report done by I think either prior to him, actually when he was an MP, that was Rotorua Flavel, he did a report post the Whanganui floods that highlighted the need, and that was the driver for Civil Defence Wellington to really, encourage and gently elbow regional civil defence responses to work much more strategically with our marae and our hapu, because they do get asked at the last minute to accommodate, especially in our, outward lying. If you're in the CBD or in the urban area, you can lean on some of our council buildings, like our town halls, etc., and they naturally become areas of focal points, and they're already set up as command response areas. But certainly in our more outlying districts, if we were to scan our four corners, so to speak, it would be marae that we'd be lean on, unless there's a town hall that's available also. But if you need large scale, if you need a command centre, if you need large-scale kitchen facilities to accommodate and feed people, our marae. So our town halls are set up as civil defence responses, largely, or our teams can mobilise to a town hall or to a council facility. Unless you've set that up strategically with a marae, you've got to turn up. Our people have to be ready to respond, and then you've got to have the conversation of who's paying, and that is actually something that is a burden to our marae, is how do you cost recover? So by doing it strategically, you have a civil defence marae plan. They already know what's going to come in a defence if the council or emergency response reach out to them at speed. You're calling at 2 a.m. in the morning or late at night or early in the morning saying, can we access your marae? Are you in a position for us to move a team out? Can we have your kitchen? Could we bring 50 people that are homeless? These are all the things, and Bay of Plenty is our stunning beauty. Comes at a cost, and that's our environment sometimes responds differently. So absolutely to your point, it's an area that we want to work on, but I want to give our emergency response team the grace that they may have already started their work, which I understand they have.
Thank you, because we are coming up to our annual plan, and if we're going to make any changes along those lines, eventually this is not going to start till 2025. So if we're going to think about these things, we should be thinking about them soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lee, followed by Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Paul. Page 56 of the agenda, at the top of the page, other kaupapa. It says, planning is underway to commemorate the signing of the Rotorua Township Agreement on 25th of November 1880. This year's promotion will contribute to the 2025 anniversary, which will celebrate 150 years since Te Arawa gifted the land to the Crown, leading to the establishment of the Rotorua Township. Which land is this?
Through you, Te Manukura, could you be a little bit more specific, please, around what you're referring to, as to what land is this?
Which land was gifted by Te Arawa to the Crown, leading to the establishment of the Rotorua Township?
Might I respond that land is clearly identified in the Fenton Agreement and also in treaty settlements. Those are all historical accounts which I can provide you.
Is this a reference to the Pukera Orewhata block?
I would respond that Pukerua gifted lands are part of the, if you use the term Te Arawa is a title that encompasses many iwi, and in particular the Fenton Agreement would sit under Te Arawa, as would all of our 16 iwi affiliates, and it's clearly identified in 15 of the 16 that have comprehensively settled. That information is identified as to what land was either gifted or sometimes taken or sold. We can provide that for you though.
Right, so the township was originally established on the Pukera Orewhata block between the Edhina Stream, Paringa streams from the lakefront to Tihia Tonga. My understanding is that that particular land was actually sold by Ngāti Whakaui in 1889, 3,020 acres for £8,250.
Councillor Lee, I know you've raised this
Understand
before, but
incorrect.
it's actually not, that history is not relevant to the report that we have in front of us. Do you have a question regarding the planning that's underway to commemorate the signing?
Yes, Madam Chair, I think it's very important that we have a historically accurate celebration of the signing of the Fenton Agreement next year. It's my information comes from the Royal Commission of Inquiry in 1949. So if there is an alternative narrative, which I have heard advanced in this chamber, I'd like to know the historical basis of that alternate claim.
Well, November 25, 2025, you can have that opportunity to learn a lot more about this. Yeah. Any further questions?
Well, are you able to provide that information to me?
I can absolutely provide public information regarding historical accounts.
Excellent, thank you very much.
And I suggest, just given that staff are happy to direct you to that information, but I wouldn't expect staff to be expected to educate you or provide you with information that is available for you to find yourself, or anyone to find themselves. And I would also suggest that, as well as Google, we do have a great team at the Rotorua Library who are able to help connect you with information. The Don Stafford area, and they also has some very interesting research on our history in Rotorua, so we're very lucky and fortunate to have that information publicly available.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I have actually taken a deep dive into this topic, and that's what I have found so far. So if there's an alternative narrative, I'd like to know the basis of it. Thank you.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I also had a question around that time, but before I ask my question, I actually want to take a brief time just to Paul and you and your family. I want to congratulate your family on the success of your nephew making the New Zealand Kiwis playing Australia on Saturday in Christchurch. I think that's a great honour for not only for you and your family, but for all of us. So, coming back to this particular one, I want to talk about the positive side of the Rotorua Township Agreement, celebrating next year after 150 years. There are thousands more that know the truth, and I think what Rob has. So, look, I know they'll be given more information then, but glad to see that we're going to be celebrating Te Arawa's huge generosity in gifting the land. So Is there a committee going to be set up for this, or what are some of the plans for it, please?
I need to admit that I haven't been privy to the details of the planning. What I have been privy to is conversations with Te Tatau, and I need to circle that back around with Te Tatau and obviously Ngāti Whakaue, and then also back with yourself. So we'll make sure that at the next reporting period we bring that back to the councillors, so you're fully aware of what the plans are, your level of involvement, etc., through discussion.
Thank you. There appear to be no further questions. Councillor Waru.
Kia ora, te manukura, sorry about that. Tēnā koe, Paul, kei te tautau au I ngā mihi ki a koe, I tō whānau. Me te aroha hoki, te whakaro I ngā kōrero au hea nei. But it's, my question is to the planning and development solutions area in your report. You talk about the RRC Papakainga toolkit. Are you able to expand a little bit more on what that is and how that's put together? Interested in that.
We've been involved through you, Te Manukura. We've been involved in, I guess, supporting the team that's actually drafting it, and it's actually JP's team and Stephanie Kelly, her team, Simon, and a few others. So I don't want to steal their thunder, but they've been working really hard, and we've just had an input into that. Certainly, they've got a very strong draft of a Papakainga toolkit. They've been looking across collaboratively with other councils about what they've achieved. It is a toolkit, in a nutshell, that identifies not only Rotorua Lakes Council's, I guess, obligations for building, but it also works with TPK, MHUD and others, and the Māori Land Court to identify the suite of, I guess, tasks that's involved to get them through to a successful Papakainga build. The last iteration I saw of it is they were working through how to implement it. They've got a consultancy firm that's working, but that's my scan. I've been involved in 2 meetings, but I'll hand it over to JP if he has anything else to add.
Your Worship, that's a very nice summary of where it's up to. So again, from my team's perspective, it was very much about being clear about the planning and building rules and also the infrastructure requirements that we have within our district. Clearly, they're also looking to pick up opportunities around what are the rules for the Bay of Plenty Regional Council that need to be recognised in any sort of Papakainga development. And then there's a number of other structural issues for land trusts and Māori Land Court involvement and potential funding sources as well. So trying to get as rich a resource as possible so that really a trust can go in eyes wide open to just how complicated it is to get a house built.
Thank you, JP, and thank you, Paul. It's a really important kaupapa, the toolkit there, because people don't realise the complexities that come with building on Māori, multiply owned whenua and things like that. So I'm really appreciative that we're actually putting that together to make it easier for those that are in that situation to navigate that space. So ka nui te mihi. My next question is actually to do with the Rotorua NZ part of your report, Paula. A lot of advice in working with Rotorua NZ to, especially in the area of cultural advice and probably te reo and things like that. Do you think now, moving forward, now with the events in strategy, events marketing, all those things being shifted that way, will there be a need for Rotorua NZ, in your opinion, to have that internally, or will there still be that bridge with Te Aomarangi to keep communications consistent across both Rotorua NZ and RRC?
Through you, I te manukura and pātai pai tēnā, Councillor Waru. Absolutely, we're in discussions with Andrew Wilson at the moment, and actually, to Rotorua NZ's credit, they've gone out, sought expert consultancy, and they've actually got their own, I've forgotten the name of it, but they've got their own strategy so I guess they're standing up independently. There will always be a touch point through to Te Amorangi and through to yourselves. It's a CCO, which you are ultimately still governors of. So there will always be an expectation and the public expectation of, despite being at arm's reach, where it is still a council kaupapa. So we'll always be there in a support capacity, but they have got a draft plan around relationships and increasing their involvement with iwi and hapu, and particularly the home of Māori tourism in Rotorua. I can reach out to them and make sure that if councils wish to cite that, it was drafted by Waringi Jones, so they've been working collaboratively with him, and now we're going to support Andrew Wilson and their team. Once their transition's complete, we want to give them some space to settle in, and we'll be looking to support them about how they implement that and the strategies. It's a fantastic plan. Now, what does it look like? And all of those things, all of those decisions and discussions that need to occur when you get a strategy. How are we going to make it? How do we make the rubber hit the road? So they've got a plan, and I really applaud them for that. Now it's about how do we support them in that. But there'll always be a touch point. Ideally, though, if they can stand up and operate independently and only reach to us when there's, I guess, sticky questions or they want some extra support, that's fabulous. We are a small team, but Rotorua NZ, to their credit, have done really good work to become independent.
Tēnā koe Paora, and actually ka nui te mihi kia koe me te whānau o Te Amorangi. It seems like you and your small team are across multiple kaupapa, so congratulations to you, because you've only been here 5 minutes and already running. So, Ngami, thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the questions. Ka mihi nui kia koe Paora. We will now go to the minor matter that was raised by Councillor O'Brien regarding the corrections facility proposed for Waikete area. I'll just pass to our Acting Chief Executive, JP, to provide an update.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just the Councillor asked about mentioned corrections facility. So we've received an application, so an RMA resource consent application to undertake and I'll call it a corrections activity within the Waikete area. So that was lodged on Friday. So we are legally required to process that application under the RMA and against our district plan rules. So the next step in the process for the team, once they've vetted the application, is to determine whether there is any public notification that will flow from that application. So that's the next step in the process. Now, the community is aware that that application has been lodged, is my understanding. So we can certainly keep you abreast of those next steps in the process so that you're aware and you can respond to any sort of community comments or concerns that get raised. But certainly from our perspective, we've received the application and we're currently processing it.
Thank you. And just a reminder that minor matters cannot have a resolution, decision or recommendation other than to be referred to a subsequent meeting, but it is helpful that we have an update on where that's currently at and the process. So I will allow just brief question or comment on this, although we wouldn't normally. Councillor O'Brien, followed by Waru and Peterson.
Thank you, Tamanda Curtis. So sorry, could I just seek a clarification on what Mr. Gaston just said? So even if it doesn't reach the threshold for public notification, councillors will still be advised of that decision and the reasons for it?
I would advise you about the next step in the process, correct? Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Waru.
Kia ora, Te Marakura. It was just a quick question, but I think it's partly already been answered, just around the appropriateness of discussing a particular consent. Not that I'm all for it because I know what the kaupapa is. I'm just wondering if we're steering the ship right in this respect.
Thank you, Councillor, and that's why I've just been quite careful with my wording. As I say, it's the independence of the staff involved in evaluating an application against the RMA and against our district plan rules. That's the critical step. I think the key piece, and it's important for you, is when you're receiving comments from the community, at least you're aware of where it is in the process, and I think that arms you with an ability to answer any questions.
Thank you, JP, and not to take away from the kaupapa, it is an important concern, so kia ora.
Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Worship. Will the people of Waikete be consulted on this?
Councillor, I just, through the statement I just made, is that we've received the application. As part of that application, there will be a decision about whether it's notified or not notified.
And then that will determine whether there will be consultation.
So notified means they will have consultation. Not notified means they don't get the chance.
There's three levels, councillor, and maybe I should just drill into that. So there's non-notified, which means it will simply be processed and a consent decision issued, so non-notified. There will be limited notification, so there would be a judgment made as to affected parties. Now that might mean it's limited for consultation with immediate neighbours, is the usual approach with limited notification, or full public notification.
Thank you. Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just clarification if you have any idea of timeline on that.
When I give the councillors an update on that process, I can advise you of the timing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for raising it, Councillor O'Brien. So the only final item that we have on our agenda is the minutes for the confidential council meetings. So unless there is any... No, we would just move those. That's moved by Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Waru. This is for the confidential minutes of the Ordinary Council confidential meeting held 18th of September, the Emergency Council meeting held 18th of September, and the Ordinary Council meeting held 25th of September. Just checking if there were any corrections. No. Okay. It's been moved by Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Waru. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. That's been carried. To close our meeting, I'd like to invite Councillor Kai Fong to do our karakia.
Kia ora koutou, kia whakaire te tapu, kia wate ai te ara, kia turuki whakata ai, kia turuki whakata ai, homie hui tai ki.
Thank you very much, everyone. I declare the meeting closed. And just a reminder to the councillors, we will have a discussion following this meeting. I suggest that we have